Exclusive contract with Feilu Novel Network Novel. Comics. Playing the heroic king at the end and start, in the end, the Valkyrie. With a different life as the beginning, she runs through history and leaves a strong trace in history. The gods will determine the destruction and continuation of humanity, and he will represent 13 humans in a confrontation with the gods. Is it God who judges humanity? Or do humans judge gods? What is the ultimate goal of humanity? Or does God walk towards dusk? At Devil's College DxD descend as King Solomon and rebuild 70.2 demon gods to counter conspiracies against two worlds. At Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. Chapter 001. Opening, Plays the Hero King, Part 1. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Mesopotamia is the ancient Greek term for the two river basins, meaning the land between the Euphrates and Tigris rivers. Here, the Sumerians established numerous city-states in the two river basins. And located on the right bank of the lower reaches of the Euphrates River in the south, there exists a city. Its city name is Uruk. Today, almost all personnel from the two major power institutions have arrived in the palaces of this city. Today, there will be a grand banquet, which is the celebration of the new king's accession. Although each one seemed to show respect for the new king, one could still see some disapproval and indifference in their eyes. Individuals who hold significant positions tend to cast a low gaze. Although he is a king, his power is not very great, and his power is limited and constrained by two major institutions of power: the Council of Elders and the Council of Citizens. So, if there is any conflict between the king and the two major power institutions, it will only become a puppet. Humph. The members of the Council of Elders snorted coldly and then started directly. Even though the capital had not yet started giving a speech, it started so disrespectfully. This elder is someone who doesn't like Wang. And of course, his behavior also caught the king's attention, which was not a sharp gaze, but a seemingly helpless gaze, helpless. With the start of this elder, others also entered the banquet one after another. In the eyes of most people, the king in front of them is not to be feared at all. Just a king in his early teens, what is there to be wary of? The king at present is still somewhat excited and confused because he suddenly ascended to his position, just a little kid. I would like to toast everyone. The young king made a seemingly arrogant voice, although most people responded, their attitude was quite perfunctory. Then, the young king picked up the wine jar and drank it with big gulps. Seemingly quite heroic, in order not to be small and young. If you look closely, you will find that he didn't take a sip at all, it's pure waste. Of course, others won't pay attention to this either, and no one takes him seriously. The banquet continued, one by one drinking to the point of forgetting oneself, and even borrowing wine to start speaking some harsh words. Is this our king? It's really not possible. When I was my age, early. At this moment, someone noticed the figure on the throne and fell asleep. I couldn't help but sneer. Just drink that little and you'll be unconscious. You're really a useless little devil. Let's learn more from them in the future. This smell. A one-eyed man in his 40s who was devouring meat suddenly frowned. The taste of the meat being chewed suddenly became strange, tingling and astringent to the touch, and unable to swallow. Then, the throat suddenly became dry and hot, as if being roasted by fire, making it difficult to breathe. Immediately after, a strong nausea hit, and I also wanted to vomit. I wanted to stand up, but found that my limbs were also abnormal. Suddenly, the pain started to rise, and it continued to intensify. Oh, help! Help! A silent voice emanated from the throat, and it also felt hot and spicy. My whole body is also sore, the pain is splitting and unbearable. Immediately, the body collapsed to the ground. Oh no! I vomited directly. In the eyes of those around him, he hasn't noticed anything wrong with this kind of performance yet. On the contrary, there are also people mocking him, saying that he can't do it so quickly, and he's just throwing up. What, usually very. Suddenly stopped, his face turned shocked. The fallen person frothed, convulsing all over, and rolling their eyes. Is this kind of behavior normal to be confused? Immediately after, someone fell down again, and the same situation occurred. Bang 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 bang, the sound of collapse one by one, as well as the sound of pushing down various things. This scene suddenly made the people at the banquet who seemed to have no problems suddenly change their faces. Is this a curse? Quickly find Lord Honor. Lord Honor is the abbot of the temple, the priest responsible for communicating with the gods, and a highly respected figure. It can be said that everyone present can disrespect the young king, but they cannot disrespect Lord Honor. Generally speaking, the abbot of a temple is also the king of the country. But now the king is too young, so he is temporarily appointed by the more prestigious Lord Honor. So, in a sense, the true ruler of Uruk at present is Lord Anr. In the blink of an eye, before Lord Honor could come over, more than half of the people at the banquet had already stopped breathing and their heartbeat. The terror caused by this situation made everyone withdraw from here, fearing that the next one would be himself killed by an unknown curse. At this moment, the slender young king sitting on the throne suddenly had a movement. His face was very healthy, as if he had not been cursed. Opening his eyes, the scene that caught his eye made him slightly surprised before he let out a sigh of relief. He was not startled by the scene before him, as expected. It was indeed expected, as the mastermind behind this scene was himself. He slightly raised the corner of his mouth, revealing a mocking look that was not appropriate for his age. So, are these people really cursed? It's not like that, it's just drinking the processed red faith stone powder, he added. Simply put, these people are just poisoned by arsenic. Great, let's take a look. I don't know how the system looks after this incident. Current progress. 65%. Originally only 55%, as it suddenly increased by 10%. In his field of vision, there also appeared a card emitting a faint golden glow. This seemingly petrified card has now been released from 65% petrification. This is a card with a character printed on it, that is a boy with blonde hair and red pupils. That was a rebellious and unruly king, a king who stood alone in heaven and earth. He is a king who is quite disgusted with God. Yes, the person above is the hero king. It's the Gilgamesh who possesses the Enkidu. Chapter 002 begins by playing the Hero King, Part 2. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Hero King Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh, who possesses the Gate of Babylon. As long as his recognition of the role on the system reaches 100%, this card can be completely unfrozen. Then, he can use this card to bless himself. As a result, what abilities does the Hero King Gilgamesh have in the Moon-type world, and of course, he will also acquire the same abilities. In fact, his current identity is also Gilgamesh, but he has just become the king of this urban country. The original him, by you, was just an ordinary office worker. It's no different from others, living a life of 3 o'clock and one line every day, going to work, leaving work, and returning home, just like a herd of livestock. As for my girlfriend, I think too much. It's too difficult to have a real girlfriend, it's better to have a paperman's wife. Then one day, he lay flat, the kind that remained motionless and had already cooled down, and went straight to the morgue. I used to lie flat at home and watch Fate on my day off, but it turned out that the TV was malfunctioning. Unscrupulous merchants cut corners and cut corners. When smoke comes from the TV, it burns. Well, it seems that during the highly anticipated plot in the animation, when a character unleashes a powerful move to flash the screen, this problem occurs, causing him to think that the characters inside are about to bombard reality. Afterwards, he hurriedly went to cut off the power supply and was so electrocuted that he lay flat. When he woke up, he found himself in the ancient Sumerian period of over 2000 BC. He was reborn as Gilgamesh like this. He wasn't too panicked about this either. His original life was about to lie flat, and because he grew up in a welfare institution, he didn't have much to worry about. So what? He can be considered a time traveler in a sense, right? So what about the various golden fingers of the interlopers in the novel? Is there always something that should be there? Yes, it's just a play system. As long as he can play his current role well and receive 100% system feedback, he can activate the card. Of course, the so-called good performance does not necessarily have to be repeated according to the story experience of Gilgamesh in this cognition. As long as he can achieve a level of comparison in his deeds, it is enough to make future generations give similar evaluations. Generally speaking, it is best to follow the direction of the story, as it may be safer. The system also provides relative records. Otherwise, if one's own misdeeds cause the butterfly effect, which leads to no record of him in later generations, it is a failure to play, and of course, one cannot become the hero king. So, he also keeps an eye on the progress of the recognition of the role above. If it suddenly drops, it means that his previous behavior was wrong. If the progress is increasing, it means there is no problem with the behavior. What situation could have caused the performance to fail? The simplest answer is that he hung up. One is being killed during the play, and the other is not being able to complete the progress until one dies of old age or illness. So what is the result of failure? Has he truly died? No, it's not like that. This system will take him to the next role. Playing. And the era where the next character is located will be changed. As for what is the next character? Sorry, the system didn't explain it to him. It's probably only told him when he fails or succeeds. Or perhaps wait until he wakes up again and makes his own judgment. So, was his act of poisoning and killing two major institutions based on the storyline provided by the system? Not so, but a choice made by oneself. Even if there is a story direction provided by the system, no matter how much he plays according to the above story, there will still be deviations. Why would there be a deviation? This involves the influence of factors such as words, actions, and behavior. For example, the record provided by the system is that one day Gilgamesh went hunting and clashed with someone. And this one day, I don't know the specific time, nor do I have a specific explanation of the extent of the conflict or what happened, so I can only grasp it myself, which is a bit bad. Perhaps the original conflict was just causing resentment towards the other party, but now the degree to which these conflicts cannot be handled properly will give the other party more ideas, perhaps wanting to kill them. This is what is called deviation. So, in the current situation, various deviations have forced him to take the risk of making such behavior. So, what kind of world is this? Is this an ordinary world? No, this is a world that seems to have a god. So, he couldn't have come to the world of the moon, could he? Will it become a hero after that? If it's a type of moon world, isn't the so-called reward a bit unnecessary? Suddenly, a chaotic sound brought him back to his senses, and it was the high priestess who claimed to be able to communicate with the gods. The high priest standing at the door, seeing a miserable scene inside, was also too scared to come in. When I noticed the figure on the throne, looking at him with my chin propped up, I couldn't help but feel a cold surge in my brain. For Ishtar, the scene before her was too eerie. Faced with such a tragedy, that Wang was so calm and even smiled at him, making people feel creepy. This also inevitably led him to have such thoughts, and this tragedy was caused by the king. This Wang, who used to seem less threatening, was young and cunningly tricked and killed almost all the personnel of the two major power institutions. Wang, what happened? I couldn't help but look with awe, and his voice was also somewhat timid. It's nothing, but these people are too troublesome. They said they wanted to treat me like a puppet, so I cursed and killed them. As he effortlessly spoke these words, he propped his chin on the handle of the throne with his elbow. At the same time, blue flames appeared next to him without any warning, which truly made people feel eerie. This kind of performance made Honor break out in cold sweat. It seems that this young king really has some incredible power, curse killing. What kind of curse will be used? Lord Honor, you probably wouldn't think the same way as these people, would you? The king who said these words raised his head slightly, revealing a condescending and aloof demeanor, as if emitting a sense of quality, which made him suffocate. No, no. Hastily deny, afraid that if you take a step slower, you will also be cursed and killed. That's good, and as Gilgamesh appeared, in an unknown future, the gods were holding a meeting. That is a conference that determines the future of humanity, whether it will be destroyed or continued. Chapter 003. Valhalla Conference. You are listening at novelfull.audio. A slightly hurried but somewhat steady sound sounded. It was the sound of footsteps. The owner of the footsteps is a woman who exudes a serious aura. On her shiny black long hair, she wore a wing-shaped hair accessory and had a pretty and heroic face that didn't require makeup. Her tall body was dressed in a seemingly chivalrous dress. She looks like the kind of person who has experienced battlefield battles, exuding a fierce and solemn aura all over her body. She looks like a legendary Valkyrie, but in reality, she is the legendary Valkyrie. She is the elder sister of the 13 sisters in the Nordic myth, called Brunhild. There was another footsteps behind her, a rather rapid sound of footsteps that had to be trotted to keep up with her. The person following was a cute girl who appeared to be around 13 or 14 years old, with short light purple hair, large emerald green eyes, and a thin cherry-colored mouth. The cute and petite body is dressed in seemingly normal casual clothes, with one slender foot under shorts wearing black knee socks, seemingly wanting to highlight one's uniqueness. This petite and lovely girl is also one of the Valkyries, the youngest sister named Grey. The two of them were walking towards the magnificent and solemn building in front of them, which was the Valhalla Council. Miss Brender, sir, little pink fist clenched tightly on her chest, and Grey felt a bit uneasy. She felt that her most admired elder sister Brender might be making some outrageous move. You should know that the identities of the people in the Valhalla Council Assembly Hall are different from them. In a sense, their female martial god sisters are not qualified to enter. Because it was the Council of God, and their 13 sisters were only demigods. Today, the Valhalla Council is also holding its once-in-a-thousand-year meeting, which will determine the future of humanity. Her elder sister seems to have really gone over for this meeting. Grey has also heard some rumors, and it is feared that the decision will really fall at this meeting. As the sister of the Valkyrie, who is already associated with humans, it seems that she cannot sit idly by. Of course, Grey himself also doesn't want that ruling to fall, but what can be done? She is just a demigod, the smallest among the female martial gods. A trainee female martial god. As a weak woman, she can't do anything. As she watched the Valhalla Council get closer and closer, it made her even more nervous and uneasy. There were all big shots inside. Ah! Sister walked into the passage without hesitation. Biting her lips, she followed suit. What is currently happening in the Valhalla Council's meeting hall? In the conference hall. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been another 1,000 years since the last meeting. An elderly voice rang out. It was a skinny old man wearing a white robe, seemingly an old man who could be blown down by a gust of wind. And this old man is presiding over a meeting of the gods, and he is the speaker of the Valhalla Council. The main god Zeus in Greek mythology. So let's start that conference now. A conference on human survival conducted by the gods of the world. Speaking of which, his narrowed eyes, hidden by thick eyebrows, opened up, revealing an exceptionally sharp gaze. So, should we allow humanity to continue for 1,000 years or should we give it an end? This is the theme of this meeting. Every 1,000 years, the gods hold such meetings, and then the gods vote to decide whether to extend the resolution for humanity for another 1,000 years. So, the possible reasons for human extinction are not limited to meteorite impacts on Earth, nuclear wars, alien invasions, but also destruction from the gods. So, all the gods, please provide your opinions. After Zeus's words fell, the entire conference room did not immediately become noisy, but instead showed a somewhat lackluster laziness. Okay, let's just end it. The first to make a sound was also a rather lazy voice, and he lay lazily. He was one of the three main gods of India, the god of destruction and creation. Shiva. Two of his limbs and arms lazily raised the sign with an X that declared the end. In my opinion, they have no intention of regretting in the past 1,000 years, so why not destroy them all? As Lord Shiva said, in the past 1,000 years, the world has become increasingly ugly, and the oceans are full of garbage and... The second deity in response is a sexy goddess, Aphrodite, who exudes beauty and charm all over her body. She also agrees with destruction, because humanity is making the world worse and worse. The subsequent responses of other gods were all critical of humanity, and no one stood up to speak for humanity. They voted one by one to end it. Humanity is the scourge of this world, let humanity go extinct, they are simply pests. I'm tired of guiding them. It's hopeless, let them destroy it. The gods seem to have completely disappointed humanity, so they no longer intend to give humanity a chance to continue for 1,000 years. They plan to declare the end of humanity in this conference room. So it seems that there is already a conclusion. The moderator Zeus also raised the hammer of judgment, about to announce the end of humanity. So, at this conference on the survival of humanity, everyone unanimously agrees to grant humanity. At this moment. Please wait a moment. A voice that seemed to disagree sounded, and it was the goddess Brunhild who rushed over. Faced with the scolding of many gods, she stood up fearlessly, trying to stop the gods from declaring the end of humanity. She moved out of the special regulation stipulated in Article 62, Item 15 of the Valhalla Constitution. A 1.on.1 showdown between gods and humans, advocating for a 1.on.1 showdown between 13 gods and 13 humans, known as the ultimate struggle between gods and humans. If humans win 7 first, they can survive until the next human survival conference. So, under her malicious provocation, if she believes that the gods dare not hold the event, it means she is afraid of losing to humans. The result was that the gods naturally accepted her proposal in anger, intending to show her clearly how humans were being ravaged. Then, she was responsible for identifying the 13 humans who participated. Are there 13 humans? She cannot make mistakes in choosing the wrong person, as she bears the responsibility of human life and death with 13 people on her shoulders. And the first target, Brunhild, has already been chosen, which is the human being born with God's blessing. Adam. Just as Brunhild was preparing to summon, she passed by a group of Babylonian gods and heard an unknown secret. That was a secret that also shocked her. Someone had successfully killed a god. The god who was killed is not an ordinary god. Chapter 004. The Babylonian god is killed. You are listening at novelfull.audio. In human history, how could someone successfully kill a god? Is this possible? It's really hard to imagine. In Brunhild's view, this is simply a fantasy and unlikely. Since this is impossible, why did she propose the proposal of a confrontation between gods and humans at dusk? It seems that she has confidence that humans can kill gods, which is why she proposed this plan. In fact, it is impossible for humans to kill gods. No matter how powerful humans are, it is impossible for them to kill gods. The reason why she feels that humans may win in the competition on the twilight of the gods is because she has another kind of preparation. If it weren't for that preparation, humans would be humans and it's absolutely impossible to win over God. So, it was quite shocking to accidentally hear the Babylonian gods speak out about their secrets. Since humans have successfully killed gods, why is it that almost none of the gods know about this? Only the Babylonian theology knows. Through the words and phrases of those gods, Brunhild can also guess the general reason. The reason is simple: it's embarrassing, not right, it's embarrassing, it's hard to say. A majestic deity that was killed by humans. Isn't this a big joke? Isn't this the greatest shame of the divine system? Moreover, the person who was killed is still a pivotal figure in the divine realm, and would be laughed to death by other divine realms. So, the Babylonian theology concealed this matter. As for the God Slayer, he has already been executed by heaven. And the God Slayer, one of the three great heroes of Sumerian Empire, was named Gilgamesh and the fifth ruler of Uruk. In the ancient literature, the Epic of Gilgamesh, he was written as the son of the goddess Ningsong, a demigod with superhuman power. That is to say, she is a half-human and half-god with the same nature as Brunhild. So, is it really like this? At present, Brunhild also began to doubt the authenticity of the recorded story. In fact, the 7 million years of human history recorded by the gods actually have many discrepancies, some of which are just hearsay. Because it is a god, there is no need to have a clear understanding of every detail of humanity. It is a kind of lofty arrogance. So, which god did Gilgamesh actually kill? That is the main god Anu in the Babylonian theology. It's hard to imagine that the main deity of a divine system would be killed by humans. What exactly is going on? Now we have arrived at the Brunhild between the Akasha records, which also awakens the system of human historical records in the divine realm. Start searching. First, conduct a keyword search. Human god killing. A lot of information was immediately listed. Are there so many human god slaying incidents? This is just a joke. Bring over one of the pop.up virtual imaging folders and open it to see what kind of deicide it is. It turned out that it was not the kind of god slaying she had imagined. Some humans, who believe they are strong enough, are so arrogant that they give themselves the names of the gods in heaven and compare themselves to gods. So, these people were ultimately killed by others, which is what is known as the god-slaying incident. Looking around, all the so-called god-slaying retrieved are similar things. Search. Gilgamesh. Then, the relevant documents were exposed, and upon reading them, they were similar to what she knew. Sister Brenda, I'm back. Accompanied by some cheerful sounds, the door was also pushed open, and the youngest sister of her own had returned. The younger sister made sure that no one was following behind and cautiously closed the door. How about it? Yu Guang glanced at Gray and made a deep voice. She asked her own sister to inquire about something. Well, I have found out that the main god of the Babylonian pantheon, Lord Anu, has been absent from 4 meetings on human existence. Is that right? Absenteeism 4 times, which started after the deeds of Gilgamesh. It's so interesting. Brunhild couldn't help but laugh as he bit his thumb. If the information in her hand is true, why has she never seen this King Gilgamesh in all these years? I only hear its name but not its person. Although it is rumored that Gilgamesh is too arrogant and disdainful of meeting anyone, he has been arrogant for thousands of years, and almost no one has seen him. Something's wrong. One more thing, if Gilgamesh is really a demigod like her who stepped into the Hall of the Spirit, then she is not among the 13 humans she wants to select. So, if the record above is false, and Gilgamesh is a human, then of course it is in the selection of 13 human spots. And such humans can actually kill the main god. Of course, they are the candidates that Brunhild will definitely bring in. With such people, it can be said that humans have already won one game first. When I think of this, ha ha ha, ha ha ha. Brunhild couldn't help but burst out laughing. In the Twilight of the Gods competition, he killed countless gods in front of them. What a stunning sight it was. That's really great. Boo, Sister Brenda, what? As the youngest sister, Gray was frightened when her elder sister suddenly burst out laughing coldly. Today, I was also so scared by my sister's provocative behavior that I had to pee in my pants. I actually mocked the gods. It's really unbearable. It's nothing, just too happy. I was so happy and couldn't wait to see the stunned expressions of the gods. Happy. That's right, maybe we have found the first human who can kill gods. This disrespectful remark scared Gray into a cold sweat. Sister, please don't speak so openly. Shoo, keep your voice down. Miss Brender, however, Sister Brender said she found the first human who could kill a god. Can humans kill gods? This is just a joke. Let's go, Gray. Where are we going? Of course it's to see that king. A pop-up window appeared earlier, showing a photo of a person with an introduction on it. Hey! Are you going to the spirit hall? No, go to his era. The hall of the spirit must not be found, so Brunhild plans to go to that era to witness the truth. Let her see how this hero king achieved god-slaying. Is the historical record of the hero king intentionally locked in chapter 005? You are listening at novelfull.audio. Watching the priest's gaze grow fearful, I couldn't help but raise the corner of my mouth. Suddenly, a feeling of unease made by you frown, as if someone was peeping at him. This feeling of peeping doesn't seem malicious, but it just gives people a feeling of dissatisfaction. Peering at him. Slightly squinting his eyes, he looked around the scene that was already being cleaned up. Who was peeking at it? Indeed, someone was peeping at him. Some of the soldiers who were carrying corpses couldn't help but sneak a glance at him, and when they were asked to scan him, they would instantly lower their heads and shake their bodies. That's because I'm afraid he might suddenly curse and kill him. Fear is a good means of governance. No, it should be said that terror is a very good means of governance. After looking around, he didn't notice anything wrong, but he just felt that his gaze was always on. It's as if the other person is standing in front of him openly and staring at him, but unfortunately, he just can't see the other person. Very close, the other party is quite close. Where is it? On the right. So, he pretended not to notice anything and stood up, casually taking out his sword and wiping it with a cloth, seemingly playing with the knife. Boo, Sister Brender, Sir Gray is now very panicked because the ruler of Uruk, the hero king of the Sumerian era, is right in front of her. The distance between the two is quite close, which can be said to be the distance they can reach out and touch. And this king, who was also quite cruel in the record, wiped his blade before her eyes with a shiny shine, feeling worried that he might suddenly strike. Did he discover us? Brunhild nodded interestingly and raised his lips lightly regarding his sister's question. Well, it's possible. After personally coming to this era and standing in front of this king, Brunhild could confirm that the person in front of him was a human. There was no divine aura felt in him, indicating that he was not the son of the recorded goddess Ningsong. So, Gilgamesh is not a demigod with superhuman power, he is just a human being. It's really interesting that he used the red belief stone to poison most of the members of the Elder Council and the Civic Assembly. In this era, when such a situation arises and he pretends to use phosphorescence, it will only misunderstand what curse he has imposed. So, he used this mystery to create a terrifying image. Gray was so shocked by her sister's words that she almost screamed out, quickly covering her little mouth. The next second, a cold light flashed. The person in front of me has already made a cross-cutting motion, and a shelf next to Gray has also been cut and is collapsing. My head is gone, no. Still there. Gray, who had reacted, just screamed and her little hand nervously touched her head, still there. I touched my neck, but there was no wound, it's still connected. Why scream? Because the shiny bronze knife coldly cut through her neck. More accurately, this sweeping slash first cut through Brent's sister like a waist slash, and then cut through her neck. The next second, Gray turned pale again, as if her scream had caught the other person's attention. With a forceful flick of his hand, the bronze knife pierced her body and hit the ground before she could react. Just as she was about to scream again, Gray quickly covered her little mouth with both hands. Absolutely not wrong, this cruel hero king can vaguely detect them. It was also because she didn't make a sound that the hero king's gaze shifted away. After shifting her gaze away, Gray couldn't help but relax her tense body and sat on the ground with her legs weak for a moment. Poor, almost scared to pee. Take a look at my own sister Brand, still standing calmly in place, unmoved. As for why his attack was like hitting the air, it could not affect their sisters, because they were not in the same time and space as him. Perhaps it can be described as watching a holographic movie, and the characters in the movie suddenly launch an attack on you, but it is meaningless and cannot harm reality. Of course, it is also because this is a movie that has already been shot and is being played, so you cannot tamper with the content inside the movie. So, of course, they cannot make changes to the established history that has already happened. They are now like watching a movie about the character Gilgamesh. If history could be changed, the Babylonian gods would not be able to immediately save the slain main god through time and space. But history cannot be changed arbitrarily, this is a rule set by the gods. In fact, it can change history, but it cannot save the deceased god. That main god must have been completely killed, his soul shattered. That is already a predetermined cause and effect, and methods such as resurrection, reincarnation, and time travel are useless, completely becoming dust in the universe. So, how did this hero king actually kill the main god of the Babylonian pantheon, Anu? Sister, did you hear me wrong? Let's go, Gray, Go where? Gray asked in a low voice, also shrinking behind her own sister. Go to the time when the bull of heaven was killed. The goddess Ishtar was enchanted by the charm of Gilgamesh and begged him for love, but was rejected. So the goddess, who became angry with embarrassment, requested her father, Anu, to send the bull of heaven, who brought drought, to earth to avenge her, but ultimately let Gilgamesh kill her. So how was it slaughtered? The bull of heaven is not something that humans can kill, no, to be precise, it is something that humans during this period cannot kill. If it is a weapon under modern human technology, it should be able to kill the heavenly bull. So, let her Brunhild take a good look at the power of this king. As for whether she believed that the king really killed the main god or not, in fact, Brunhild found that the possibility was even higher after entering the Akashi realm and using the system. Normally, she would never have had the chance to access this system and investigate any theological system related to human history. It was because of the confrontation between humans and gods. The proposal of the twilight of the gods. That she was granted the permission to unlock and watch all history. So, upon entering the history of the hero king, she found herself locked, meaning that all other theological factions needed to obtain consent from the Babylonian theological faction to watch. However, now she has been directly unlocked with the permission to observe human history related to the entire pantheon, so there is no need for further authorization from the Babylonian pantheon. Is the historical record of the hero king intentionally locked? There is clearly some secret behind this. Chapter 006. Goddess Ishtar event triggered. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Uruk, today is exceptionally lively. The residents of the entire city are boiling and cheering, as if holding the largest celebration in history. The horn sounded, and the residents consciously gave way to the main road. Looking towards the city gate, the army is triumphantly returning. From the beginning, I felt a bit distrustful and uneasy, then fearful, and finally turned into admiration. That person is their king. Gilgamesh. After becoming king, many measures were implemented, which led to rapid development of Uruk, especially in agriculture, instantly becoming the most powerful agricultural power in all neighboring countries. After conducting business and trade, the overall strength of this country has also become stronger. Of course, military reforms have also led to the development of many amazing weapons. Then, the king of the most powerful country, King Aga of Kish, sent envoys to Uruk King Gilgamesh to send people to dig wells and repair canals for Kish, without wanting to give anything. The arrogant king of Kish, Aga, also threatened to confront each other in battle if he did not comply. So let's meet in battle. At first, almost all neighboring countries believed that Uruk was unlikely to win in this war. But who could have imagined that the vast empire of Kish, which was in full swing, would be surrounded by Uruk troops in the blink of an eye? Who would have thought that the equipment of the soldiers in Uruk was even better than that of Kish? It can be said that it is the strongest direct guard of the king of Kish. The fully armed and excellent equipment of these 100-person guards is the basic equipment among the soldiers in Uruk. Especially the archer legion specially formed by Uruk has exceptionally sharp arrows and terrifying range. If metal shields are not used for defense, it is impossible to stop them. Of course, there are also so-called siege vehicles. It is precisely this massive siege vehicle that allows Uruk soldiers to easily cross the city walls and quickly capture the city of King Kish Aga. So, now that the army is triumphantly returning, the powerful Kish state is also submitting to Uruk. The army of over 4,000 soldiers on the expedition suffered only 500 casualties, while the army of Kish suffered over 2,000 casualties. So, does that person say? Yes, it's King Kish Aga. It's not wrong, it's King Kish Aga. A disheveled person with disheveled hair was imprisoned in a prisoner's carriage. Although he looks disheveled, it is still somewhat noticeable that this person has a different aura than ordinary people. Then, on the back of a somewhat extraordinary tank, a person sat high up. He held his chin and looked down at everyone. That kind of arrogance, like a deity. That person is their king. Gilgamesh. One by one, they cheered loudly, cheering for the king who guided Uruk to become the hegemon. Then, King Kish Aga was imprisoned and ultimately sent to the execution platform in Uruk, ending his life. And on the throne of the temple tower. The original location of the throne was where the statue of the goddess Ishtar, the owner of the temple priest, was placed. Now, this statue is nowhere to be found. If it were a few years ago, it would probably have caused panic throughout the entire city of Uruk. However, in recent years, under the leadership of Wang and with a lot of promotion, residents no longer have such great admiration for God. On the contrary, they gradually believed that their king was the god, using divine wisdom to make this country quite prosperous. The king, who had just ascended to the throne of the temple tower, was about to speak when a soldier hurriedly ran up. Discovered that the armies of Rajash, Ur, and Nippur were heading towards Uruk. This report instantly made the people in the hall show a cruel smile. Hee, isn't that great? Automatically delivered to your door. It also eliminates the reason. The growth of Uruk, of course, also desires to devour the surrounding city-states, and now there is no need for any excuse to attack. Of course, it is expected that these countries will attack Uruk because Uruk has taken away most of their business. Wang, I request to be responsible for Rajash. Then I'll be responsible for Ur. Nippur, then it belongs to me. Wait a minute, all three of you have taken it away. So what are we doing? No, I should be responsible for Rajash. I have investigated Rajash the most. For a moment, there was a commotion in the hall. All right. The king on the throne made a lazy voice, instantly making the entire hall quiet. You will be responsible for Rajash, and your words will be responsible for Ur, you will be Nippur, that's it. I hope you don't disappoint me too much. The rest of the people did not refute the king's instructions and accepted them all. Because the king's command is absolute. Later, as expected by everyone, the armies of Rajash, Ur, and Nippur were defeated by the king's army. In the blink of an eye, these three countries were dominated by Uruk. 90%, current progress. 90%, the cards in the field of vision are only a corner left petrified. However, this 90% progress had already been achieved before Gilgamesh, White Moon, took down Lhasa, Ur, and Nippur, and has not risen since then. So, is there anything else missing? Enkidu. I didn't even notice this person. Is it the bull incident that day? This involves the so-called goddess Ishtar, which was originally worshipped by Uruk. So is God really there? I'm not sure, but he has felt several times that something is peeping at him, possibly the so-called God. Of course, he can also be certain that this world is not the world of the moon. Suddenly, a woman appeared before his eyes without any warning. A woman dressed quite sexy, a woman looking at him with a high and aloof gaze. The gaze was also like looking at a new pet, it was really unpleasant, and I really wanted to gouge out its eyes. This woman can't be the goddess Ishtar, can she? If there is a conflict with her, he is not unable to deal with her, but there is only one chance. This opportunity is a reward given after the progress reaches 50%. Chapter 007. Wang likes to customize special cars, but doesn't like them. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. The woman who appeared is indeed the goddess Ishtar, the goddess of nature and harvest. She is also the goddess in charge of love, childbirth, and war. She, who also paid attention to the lower realm and the heavenly realm, finally couldn't help but be attracted by the Uruk king Gilgamesh. Now that I am in front of this human king, I really like it even more when I look at him up close. Golden hair and red pupils, so handsome, not inferior to those male gods at all. Especially exuding a domineering and arrogant aura, she was the strongest human she had ever seen. This kind of domineering and arrogant, as if the aura of a god would pale in front of him, is really amazing. Look, the line of sight that came in right now was not at all panicked, sitting calmly as if nothing had happened. Then, Ishtar twisted her seductive limbs slightly, displaying the aura that a goddess should possess, and her sexy lips lifted lightly. I am the goddess of nature and harvest Ishtar, and then what? The Uruk king sitting on the throne, still holding his chin, made a slightly restless sound. He was not panicked or excited because she was a goddess, and he remained unmoved. This kind of performance also left Ishtar slightly stunned, don't you believe it? It's okay, just make him believe it. The next second, accompanied by the glow of her body, crops such as barley, wheat, and lentils grew around her. You know, these are all grown from stone slabs without soil, this is simply a miracle. This will prove that I am the goddess of nature and harvest Ishtar, right? So what? Ishtar, the goddess of nature and harvest, I wonder what I need to do to find this king. The attitude is completely the same as before, without any change, it's like talking to her like an ordinary person. This couldn't help but make Ishtar's face flicker with a hint of gloom. She is a deity, and although the human in front of her may be the king among humans, she is ultimately just a human. She is treated with such an attitude although angry, at the same time she also liked him more. A very simple thing is that I have fallen in love with you, so King Uruk, become my companion. You will also break free from the limitations of short-lived humans and become a demigod with a long lifespan. Goddesses seeking love from humans cannot be ignored by any human being, after all, they are genuine goddesses. And after becoming a partner, one can become a demigod step by step, no longer worrying about the end of life in 100 years. So, after saying these words, the Uruk king in front of him really looked a bit tempted. He just sat up straight and looked at her with interesting eyes. An interesting gaze. I heard that you maintain physical relationships with certain deities, and I also heard that there were other humans who were invited by you before. You don't have to worry about this anymore, King Uruk, because now I am enamored with you. I used to mind this, men are like this, so just sweet talk is enough. So, Ishtar twisted his seductive body and leaned against it, pouring out his fragrance. Oh. So you're really messing around with so many men. I'm really sorry, I don't like taking the bus, I thought I would be captivated, but I said something that made her face turn pale. Although she didn't know what a bus meant, she felt a strong insult. Looking at this Uruk king, he cast a contemptuous gaze and then pushed away with one hand, shaking his hand as if it had been contaminated with something dirty. At this moment, Ishtar's face was twisted and his veins were beating. Puff! Someone couldn't help but burst out laughing and instantly covered their mouth. And the person who chuckles is the youngest sister of Valkyrie. Grey. What this Uruk king said was too sharp, to say that he doesn't like taking buses. This is too interesting, isn't it? By the way, isn't this a modern meme? Did it actually appear during the Sumerian period? Wow! The Uruk king suddenly cast a sharp gaze towards her. No, I don't know, did I feel them again? So, Grey was so scared that she hid behind Sister Brand. At present, they are still in a state of temporal and spatial dislocation, and ordinary gods cannot detect them. I don't know what a bus means. Woo! No, human Gilgamesh. The goddess Ishtar twisted her terrifying face, seemingly wanting to gain a specific understanding of the meaning of that word. And she no longer called the king of Uruk, but gritted her teeth and directly called him by name, indicating that she was so angry that she was about to explode. I don't understand, do I? Then I will tell you with great compassion that the so-called bus is a convenient vehicle for transportation. As long as you pay a little fee, everyone can get on it. Therefore, I don't like to share buses. There are specially customized King's tanks, which are relatively clean and comfortable. If you want to experience the bus, I can find a driver to take you on a journey and take a good look at the beauty of Uruk City. These words made Grey bite his little hand and worry about this Uruk king. Look at the goddess Ishtar, her beautiful face twisted so ferociously, like a female demon. The eerie wriggling claws were also about to tear him apart. Ha ha ha, ha ha ha, very good, Gilgamesh. Finally, a scream that seemed to tear her throat started, causing Grey to tremble uncontrollably. Oh no, Sister Brand, King Gilgamesh is about to be killed now. No, it's not enough to just start killing someone. Gods generally do not kill humans with their own hands, which makes them appear too calm and angry, and may be laughed at by other gods. So, God will use other methods to punish humanity and then appreciate human suffering from above. Squinting his eyes slightly, Brunhild also saw something eager to try from the dangerous light flickering in Gilgamesh's eyes. Killing the gods. Where did he get his confidence from? Wait, I will make you regret your behavior today. After leaving this harsh sentence, the goddess Ishtar left like this. The person on the throne, who was looking at the disappearing figure, slightly raised the corners of their mouth and suddenly made progress to 95%. By the way, if we had just started taking action and were able to kill Ishtar, would it have been even higher 0.99%? So, the next step is to send the Bull of Heaven to deal with him, right? Chapter 008. The Bull of Heaven attacks. You are listening at Novel Full.audio. An agricultural area on the outskirts of Uruk City. There are quite complete water conservancy facilities built here, coupled with fertile land, so the survival of agriculture is far enough to meet the needs of Uruk. So, under the rule of the great Uruk king, there will be no hunger incidents. Suddenly, the personnel who were taking care of the crops couldn't help but look up at the sun in the sky, showing a puzzled expression. Why is the weather getting hotter and hotter today? And there's something wrong with this heat, it's not coming from the sky, but from the south rolling up from the ground. Looking towards the south, the air in the field of vision seemed to distort. Squinting his eyes, he carefully looked at the crops there, as if something was wrong. The colors were getting darker and wilting. As soon as my pupils contracted, I saw some places smoking, and then it caught fire. What situation? The next second, a heat wave that was so overwhelming that it almost made him faint from the heat. The crops around are also withering due to this terrifying heat wave. Immediately after, he also saw a foreign object running wildly in his field of vision. Cow. It seems like a cow that has never been this big before. And as the cow approached, the temperature around it also became higher and higher. Not only that, the earth seems to be shaking because of its movement. After several confirmations, I understood that the reason for the abnormal temperature was the cow. It's not that there are no soldiers to stop, but it's not even a match for that cow. Before I could even touch the cow, my whole body was soaked in sweat and I didn't hold on long before I fainted from the heat. So, on the temple towers of Uruk's temples. Someone who seemed to have noticed walked up to the door. Looking out at the distant wall, I saw the thick smoke rising. It seems that the bull of the drought god has really been put down. What's going on? Are there any enemies attacking? That seems to be a farming area. Setting fire. What are the soldiers guarding there doing? The elders, who were about to continue speaking, followed his signal to calm down and then shut up one after another. Walk down from the temple to the bottom, get on the prepared chariot and drive towards the thick smoke rolling south gate. There is no need to reach the city gate, as there are already soldiers rushing in to report the situation. Well, that's not the legendary celestial bull Gujarana, is it? It's a divine beast next to the sky god Anu. Does Ishtar request the sky god Anu to bestow divine punishment? That will bring drought to the earth. After climbing the city wall, many people trembled as they looked out at the ferocious creature that was destroying crops and causing drought to the earth. Some even knelt down directly. It's the punishment of the goddess Ishtar. Kneel down quickly in request. What is requested? A cold light flashed over, and its head flew up and fell to the ground, rolling and rolling. Whoever kneels down will have this fate. The squinted red pupils were like ominous stars illuminating the night. The elders and nobles who were being watched all showed timidity and straightened their bent legs. Answer me, who made Uruk so wealthy and powerful in these years? Opening his hands, as the king, he issued a declaration to the soldiers. One by one, their gaze also shifted in focus. Yes, it's the king of Uruk. It's King Gilgamesh. Gradually, thunderous sounds surged in, and countless soldiers shouted loudly for King Gilgamesh. Yes, it is my king, and I have not received the so-called divine revelation, divine. So all of this is brought to you by my human king, not the so-called God. And now, the one who is wantonly destroying everything we have created with our own hands is sent by God. This made the soldiers silent, and some gradually trembled, which was anger. Do you know why God did this? The reason is that the goddess, no, the lustful god Ishtar, ridiculous, wanted me to become her slave. And of course, I refused this slut. Continuing with these words, the soldiers once again wavered, this time not in panic, but mostly in anger. Do you understand? The so-called God is this kind of thing. If it is really a good God, will we need to offer sacrifices? Have you really seen what God gives us? The God who needs to take away our dignity, our freedom, and us. To bring us shelter. Is this thing really called a God? Tell me, is this a God? No, no. 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 What are they? Tell me. It's an evil God, it's a demon. In the blink of an eye, countless soldiers, countless residents, even the elders and nobles, were infected by the atmosphere and roared angrily. The sound of anger that seemed to shake the atmosphere made the heavenly bull, who was causing chaos, seem to be afraid. Devil, evil. Grey, who couldn't help but be driven, quickly covered her little mouth. Too terrifying, is this the aura of Gilgamesh as king? Even she couldn't help but be infected. You should know that during this period, Sumerians were quite revered for the gods. However, looking around now, most people no longer have any reverence for God. How did it brainwash into this? Brender's sister, how will King Gilgamesh defeat the bull of heaven? Although the current heavenly bull does not seem to have all its strength, it has been restricted to a certain extent. I am worried that it may cause too much impact and disturb other gods of the divine series. But even to this extent, it is not something that people in this era can kill. You ask me, who am I asking? Just keep reading and you'll know. Brunhild was also quite curious about how Gilgamesh did it. Then, after seeing Gilgamesh say something to several guards, these people ran back to the temple. These people seem to have been instructed by Gilgamesh to prepare something in advance, and now they have made the final preparations in the past. As for what to prepare in advance, Brunhild was also unclear, because they did not see this moment by moment from the appearance of the goddess, but jumped in time. It's like watching a movie, pulling the progress bar and skipping, so sometimes I miss out on some plot. Surprisingly, all residents near the temple were evacuated. Almost half of the city has been evacuated. And a door beneath the massive pyramid-like temple also opened, which was a sturdy storage room that could sometimes serve as a refuge. Is this to provide shelter for residents? Of course not. If so, residents will not be kept away from this temple. Is it difficult to introduce the heavenly bull and lock it up? Even if the wall is thicker than the city wall, it won't be long before it gets knocked through. So, to what extent is it necessary to achieve serious injury or even kill the heavenly bull? If we can give the power to demolish this massive temple like a pyramid into ruins, we should be able to kill the current heavenly bull. Wait, is it difficult? Brunhild, who saw something, showed a somewhat incredulous expression. Does this guy understand this? Chapter 009. Dust Explosion, Cook It. You are listening at novelfull.audio. After destroying agriculture, they finally rushed towards the city. It was indeed a bit troublesome, as he could only hit the city wall with a single punch that could penetrate it with all his might. As for the combination of weapons, the effect is not significant. It can barely cut through the thick cowhide, but it quickly recovers on its own. And the weapons of this era are only to that extent. Under his leadership, they will be discarded at once. However, since he can achieve such a degree of harm to the heavenly bull, it seems that his preparation should be to kill this beast that has brought drought to the earth. As for the power he just said can penetrate that thick city wall. Perhaps it would require the power of modern tank artillery to achieve this, and humans can do so. Normally, it is unlikely. This is another benefit provided by his playing system, and as the completion rate increases, it will also strengthen his physical fitness. It may not be correct to say that it is reinforcement, but rather the development of the body's potential. Come on, stupid cow. At this moment, he had already sat on the throne of the temple tower and made a mocking sound towards the celestial bull that he had provoked and chased after in front of him. Who? His nostrils were spraying hot air, and his forelimbs were also rubbing against the floor with cow hooves, which was a charging force that was about to charge towards him. The next second, accompanied by a dull sound of crushing the floor, the heavenly bull charged towards him with a force that seemed to shake the mountain peak. Every time you step on the ground, the entire slate shows radioactive cracking. In the blink of an eye, the distance between the two sides was shortened by half. At this moment, he raised the corner of his mouth and pressed down on one of the handles of the throne, as if the mechanism was sinking. At this moment, the floor where the heavenly bull was about to settle suddenly collapsed, and it followed suit and fell to the bottom of the pyramid-like temple. With the angry roar of the falling heavenly bull, a terrifying energy quickly swelled up inside the temple. If you look carefully at the collapsed cave entrance and look down at the ground, you will see terrifying flames surging out, as if a volcano is about to erupt. Bang! It's like thunder. No, it's a loud roar, even louder than thunder, ringing through the entire Uruk. Countless people felt dizzy as if their heads were hit by a loud bang, and then they stared at the huge temple in astonishment. That was the king's palace, and there was a earth-shattering explosion. A huge flame rose up, reflecting the entire Uruk red. Countless rubble also splashed around, but due to Wang Zhao's strange command, the surrounding area had already evacuated people, so there were almost no casualties. So, what is that? The people of Uruk, who were unaware of everything, thought it was a divine punishment from the gods and felt a bit flustered for a moment. "Brother Brender, what's going on here?" Gray, whose soul was about to fly due to the big explosion, made a panicked sound after confirming that she was fine. At present, she is no longer in the temple, but has been transferred to the city wall here, so she stared at the big explosion in shock. "Dust explosion, it seems you haven't studied well, have you?" Dust explosion. I seem to have heard of this term, but Gray didn't carefully understand the principle. I didn't expect him to actually use this. Brunhild couldn't help but let out a voice of admiration. The door that was just opened at the bottom is actually used for ventilation, allowing the air inside to circulate. And this type of door not only has one, but also many other ventilation openings, allowing the originally enclosed interior space to have enough air. Then, as the ground wheat flour was poured into the interior space, and finally, when the heavenly bull was lured up, the ventilation openings were closed again. Subsequently, after the heavenly bull fell, the high temperature it emitted ignited the powder mixed in the air. Its rapid combustion caused a sudden increase in temperature and pressure, resulting in such a earth-shattering explosion. After the roar subsided, a figure gradually appeared from the rolling smoke and dust, which was King Gilgamesh. It seems that such a big explosion also caused him considerable injuries. I'm also prepared for the impact, otherwise he might also be killed by the explosion. Suddenly, something was pushing open from the collapsed pile of stones behind him. As the gravel spread apart, a rather miserable monster was covered in a large amount of metal fragments. It was staring at King Gilgamesh with blood-red eyes, then running towards him unnaturally, intending to pierce his body with the remaining unbroken horn. Faced with this situation, King Gilgamesh did not turn around to take a glance, and it seemed as if he had no intention of avoiding it. Is it because he is too injured to move? Not so, it was because he could hear the footsteps of the heavenly bull struggling to death. The closer he approached, the slower his speed slowed down, and his open eyes gradually closed. When he reached 1 meter behind him, he completely collapsed. At this moment, the Uruks, who were originally worried about him, froze for a moment before their overwhelming cheers rang out. This is the power of their king. Build a big pot for this king. The king made such a declaration and everyone shouted loudly. So, the bull of heaven was cooked for 10 days and 10 nights. On this day, I also noticed that something was wrong with the arrival of a god. The originally starry night sky has turned into a starless night. Black clouds rolled up, and the next tornado landed on the earth, as if the thunder announcing the end of the world was also roaring. The sky god of the Babylonian pantheon. Anu. Looking at the roaring sky, the Valkyrie Brunhild murmured to herself. Sky god. Lord Anu, that's the Lord God. Should we hide? Gray was quite uneasy as she huddled behind her sister. Ordinary gods might not notice them, but the main god was hard to say. No need. My gaze also shifted to the figure sitting on the throne, without any fear. He raised the corner of his mouth and smiled, which made Brunhild feel a chill on his back. His ruby pupils, like ominous stars that were about to illuminate the night sky, opened, and the implied murderous intent in his gaze seemed to have a quality. He wants to kill the gods. At this moment, Brunhild was also both excited and nervous. She will witness with her own eyes the killing of the Lord God by humans. Chapter 010. The Attack of the Main God Anu. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Anu is a deity symbolizing the sky, serving as the main deity in Babylonian mythology. He has always been at the highest level in the heavenly realm, almost not in the lower realm. He was sitting quietly on the pedestal in his own temple, slowly opening his eyes. His pupils were flickering with abnormal light, as if there were countless electric lights converging in them. Today is the 10th day that Ishtar borrowed Gugalana. Why hasn't it been returned yet? Of course, Anu also understood the purpose of borrowing Ishtar, which was to be insulted by the humans on the ground and let them down to punish him. Although what the other party said is true, what qualification does a mere human have to look down upon the gods? So I lent Ishtar the bull of heaven, the lower realm, to punish that arrogant human and let him know what God's authority is. Of course, it's also time to stop Ishtar's promiscuous behavior a bit. Don't go overboard in the lower realm and break into the realm of other theological systems, causing them to be ridiculed by other theological systems. Summon the heavenly bull Gugalana back. So, Anu sent the command to the bull of heaven. What is the situation? Unable to contact the bull of heaven. This lack of connection does not mean that the heavenly bull disregards his commands, but rather that his commands cannot be transmitted to the heavenly bull, as if the heavenly bull is not in the communication circle. With a furrowed brow, I wouldn't have really ventured into the realm of other divine systems, would that be a bit troublesome? With a wave of his hand, a scene appeared in front of him. First, let's take a look at the situation in the area where the heavenly bull is punished in the lower realm. As the picture became clearer, we also saw a city that was quite magnificent for humans, and that was Uruk City. The temple collapsed. On a huge altar that appeared to be used for worship, which had been cleaned up again, there was a large pot standing on it, cooking something. And on a throne next to the big pot, there was also a figure that looked quite arrogant, as if it was the Uruk king of humanity. What is he nibbling on? Eating cows. Cow. There seems to be a cow in the boiling pot. As the camera zoomed in, it couldn't help but make Anu's face turn black and blue, with bulging veins on his forehead and blood vessels about to burst. Pop it. In his anger, he crushed the handle of the throne and then stood up in a burly posture. A terrifying aura erupted, causing a strong impact on the entire temple. The entire temple was shaking violently, emitting a mournful cry, with a feeling of collapse at any moment. Surprisingly, dare to kill his heavenly duke. Only humans have fought and even cooked Gujarana. What a heinous crime this is. What's going on here? Is Lord Anu angry? Who exactly caused the Lord God's anger? The surrounding gods also looked in astonishment at the highest temple, which emitted a terrifying aura that twisted the air. Some weak gods, in such an aura, are so frightened that they stand still, as if a frog is being targeted by a snake, afraid to move. So, who offended the main god of their divine lineage? It's been a while since I've seen such a rage. At the same time, here in a certain temple, there are constantly whimsical sounds coming from the rooms deep inside. It was also a sudden outbreak of divine anger that spread, causing panic among the people inside. A goddess who looked very seductive ran out in panic, and that was the goddess Ishtar. Although I don't know exactly what the anger of the Lord God is, I still need to quickly end the erosion situation. When I arrived at the temple of the main god, I found that the main god was no longer there, as if he had gone to the lower realm. How many years have passed since Lord Anu left the underworld? Why did he suddenly go to the earthly world? Did any foolish human offend Lord Anu? But if it's a human, how did it make Lord Anu angry? The gods began to discuss one after another. Immediately, he went to the earthly world to see what exactly happened. At this moment, the sky god Anu, who came to the sky above the earthly world, looked down at the city of Uruk with his cold eyes. Countless humans, trembling under his divine power, fear seemed to grab their hearts, making their breath dare not. One by one, those who cannot withstand the pressure and begin to bend their knees should kneel down. Without my king's permission, who made you kneel down? The sound, which was not very loud, was as if it had reached the ears of the entire human city, causing its bent legs to stop it. That seemingly plain tone contains absolute commands that can counter divine power. As if such a voice had given courage to the people of Uruk, the fear on their faces gradually dissipated and instead showed determination and bravery. One by one, he dared to look directly at himself as the Lord God, which made him both admire and angry. The thunderous eyes also turned towards the Uruk king sitting on the throne. Gilgamesh. Faced with his arrival, Gilgamesh showed no fear at all and casually bit the flesh in his hand. What arrogance this is! Do you not know what God is? Too ignorant. Didn't you see the power of the gods showing up right now? Can this maintain such a mindset? I am the sky god Anu. The sound of the divine voice made the atmosphere tremble, and at the same time, the staff in his hand was slightly raised. Its light shone from the staff, and the rolling black clouds that covered the sky instantly dissipated. The stars that had lost their radiance once again shone, creating a dazzling and beautiful night sky. However, such a night sky gives the impression that it is even more dangerous than the apocalyptic scene just now. Take a closer look at the shining stars, they are getting brighter and bigger, giving people a feeling that the sky is about to fall on the earth. Uruk King Gilgamesh, do you know? I don't know. Before the sky god could finish speaking, he was interrupted by an impatient voice. The person sitting on the throne also twisted their neck and stood up. Raising the corner of his mouth, it felt very sinister, and the fierce light emitted by the red pupils seemed to cover the starry sky, making the light of the stars dim to avoid its sharpness. Then he said these words. Can you roll down? I look up and feel tired.